What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next I'm going to go over the top 10 surprising sales I saw this week. Also, I have got a free giveaway for the month of October, so stay tuned on how to win those books. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. If you haven't watched one of these videos before, what I do is I watch the weekly Heritage comic auction. I pick out 5 books that surprise me on the high end and 5 books that surprise me on the low end. Go over those books. Sometimes I provide alternatives for them because a lot of times they're pretty big keys, pretty expensive books. And before we get into that, I've also got the giveaway that I mentioned for the month of October. I thought it would be fun to do kind of a, call it like a monster themed giveaway. So I've got 5 books. So we've got Man-Thing number 1, this is from the second series. We've got Man-Thing number 4, this is from the first series. We've got Swamp Thing number 2, this is a minor key for Swamp Thing. This is from the first series. Then we have Godzilla number 1. And then we have this Dark Horse Presents Awesome Aliens vs. Predator book. So these 5 books, going to be, giving these away. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, #monsters. So I'll put it, down here, and then you'll have a chance to win these books. And I'll pick one randomly from the comments and send those out probably later this month. All right, so with that, let's get into these surprising sales. I'm going to start with a low sale. This is a major key. This is Fantastic Four number 1 with the CGC 4.5 that sold for just $21,600. I think most people are going to recognize this book. This is the first appearance of the Fantastic Four. They're on the cover. It is the book that really saved Marvel, made that transition into superheroes from the kind of like monster themed books that they had been doing prior to that. Now, I had estimated the sale price of this book at $27,000. This was 20% below that estimate, so not a small amount of money when you're talking about a book that is this expensive. This book had peaked in January just of this year with a sale of $36,000. So this is a drop of 40% from that peak sale. Now, this is a book that has on average been coming down across the board. I think it just got a little overheated like everything else. We've been seeing these big Silver Age keys like Fantastic Four number 1, Amazing Fantasy 15. A lot of these books that got really, really expensive, they've been coming down. So I do have a copy of this book right now. It is at my presser as we speak to be sent to CGC. And this is one that I'll probably end up holding on to it until we get a little bit more concrete news about the Fantastic Four in the MCU. I mean, this is a big key regardless, but we can't deny the fact that when we see them ultimately on screen in the MCU, that I think it's going to have a big impact on the values of these books. Now, for alternatives, your alternatives for this book are still going to be pretty expensive, but one that I do really like is just one issue later, their second appearance, Fantastic Four number 2, also the first appearance of the Skrulls. And the reason I really like this one is that it's clear that the Skrulls are going to be playing a big part, at least in the short to medium term, in the MCU. It's also just a big key. The Skrulls are on the cover. Not a huge fan of the yellow cover in this one. I really like yellow covers in the Golden Age, but this one, don't like it quite as much, but still a cool book. And I'm really excited for the Secret Invasion, that the preview that's going on right now that had Nick Fury in it and everything. I think that looks awesome. Really excited for that one. So I think this is definitely one to keep an eye on because prices have been coming down on this book. All right, number 9. This is a high sale. This is Journey into Mystery number 83. But this was a coverless copy that sold for $2,160. This was not a record sale, but this was still a big sale for this book. When you're talking about those big key issues, whether it's in the Golden Age or in the Silver Age, you can still command a significant amount of money for coverless copies, especially ones that have pretty decent opening splash pages. Some are better than others. But even with that, like I said, this is a big sale for this book. I had estimated the price at $1,800, sold for 20% above my estimate. Now, this wasn't a record. The record was $3,360 from January of this year. But just the day before this sale, this book sold for $1,800. So that's where you can see that big variation that you can get in the prices of these books over very short periods of time. And so someone got, I think, probably a decent deal. That means at that $1,800 price, and then this one was a little more expensive at $2,160. Now, I have never purchased a coverless copy of one of these big keys, but I have definitely been tempted a few times. My favorite is probably Tales of Suspense number 39. Has an awesome opening splash page with Iron Man. The Daredevil number 1 opening splash page for first appearance of Daredevil is also pretty great. So there are some different ones that are better than others, but Tales of Suspense 39 is definitely my favorite. Now, for an alternative for Journey into Mystery 83, because obviously even a coverless copy is going to cost you over $2,000, I think it's Journey into Mystery 89. Just 6 issues later, an incredible cover. A lot of people have argued that this should have been the cover for Thor's first appearance. It's really centrally focused on him as the character, and you can get a lower mid-grade copy for around $500. And when you compare that to over $10,000 for Journey into Mystery 83, not a bad deal for what's still an early Thor appearance and a great cover appearance of Thor. All right, now number 8. This is a low sale. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 316 with a CGC 9.8 that sold for just $564. The Venom keys just keep getting crushed. They just keep going down. Ever since that movie came out, it's not a surprise that it's happening. It's just, you just keep seeing them drop. But this is the first full cover appearance of Venom. One of the best Venom covers ever done, in my opinion, done by Todd McFarlane. And if you are a Venom collector, if you're a Spider-Man collector, I think this is just a book you need to have. But if you watch GPA, if you look where they've got their little red arrows where it shows prices going down, it's just red everywhere with the Venom keys, including this one. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $775. This was 27% below that estimate. It had peaked in March of last year with a sale of $1,925. It is down 71% from that peak. Just brutal. Brutal for that book. I've got one copy. It definitely hurts me. This has been just a book that's just constantly been going down. I don't think you really need alternatives for this book. You could get raw copies for relatively cheap prices, and you can get them in the 9s graded for under $200. So very affordable book, especially if you are a Venom collector, a Venom fan, one that you need to add to the collection. All right, now number 7. This is a high sale. This is one I was surprised to see on the high sale surprising list this week. This was Strange Tales number 110 with a CGC 1.5 that sold for $2,280. This is another book that has just been trending down, a constant downtrend since that Doctor Strange movie came out. So this strong sale really jumped out to me. This is a great multi-key book. I've talked about that before, how I really like the books that have multiple firsts in them. This is first Doctor Strange, first Wong, first Ancient One, first Nightmare, bunch of stuff. But the thing that really does hurt this book is the cover, because none of those characters are on the cover. You've got all these first appearances and none of the first characters are on that cover. But I had estimated the price of this book at $1,650. This sold for 38% above my estimate. This wasn't a record, but this was really close. Prior record from June of last year, of 2021, was a sale of $2,300. So this was only $20 less than that, less than 1% short of that record. So this was a big sale for this book, especially considering it has been trending down in basically every grade. Now, this is a big Silver Age key. I think it is a great book to own regardless, but you also can't deny the effect that the MCU has on the values of these books. And Doctor Strange isn't done in the MCU. He's definitely coming back. We're going to see him at least one more time. I'm assuming multiple additional times, but it does sound like it's a little ways off in the future. So I think you could see prices of this book continue to slide. So if you're interested in it, I would just keep watching. Now, another book that struggles, if you're looking for alternatives of a bad cover, is Strange Tales 111. This one is the first appearance of Baron Mordo, also the first appearance of Asbestos Man, if you ever think we're going to see that character in the MCU, but I doubt it. But we're getting the Fantastic Four, so we'll be getting the Human Torch. Maybe we will get Asbestos Man with that. But this book also has a lot of red down arrows with it, so it's one that I would keep an eye on, because I don't think this is the last time we'll have seen Baron Mordo either. All right, now number 6, low sale, and we've got Journey into Mystery number 83 again. So we had a high sale with a coverless copy. Now this is a low sale for a CBCS 1.5 that sold for just $3,840. So this one, I am kicking myself that I do not currently have this book in my hands. I was watching the auction while I was biking, and I had it on my phone, and I just got distracted, looked away for a little bit, and then the book had passed. It had gone past, and I went and checked the price, and I was like, oh my gosh, it sold for just $3,840. I was just, I was gutted. I would have at least made somebody pay more for that book if I didn't end up winning it. I mean, because a CGC 0.5, a 0.5 sold in July for $3,960. This is a 1.5 that sold for less. Now, yeah, it's missing a little bit on the top edge of the book, which obviously takes away from it, but it's still a coverless copy sold for $2,160. This book, if you just cracked it out, sent it into CGC, maybe you get a 1.5, maybe you get a 1.0, but regardless, you're beating a 0.5, and I think you're going to be doing real well in that book. I think this was just, whoever got it got a steal. Now, I had estimated the price at $6,000. This was 36% below that estimate. The record for a 1.5, for a CGC 1.5 from May of this year was $7,200. So it was almost half of that price. Now that one presented better, didn't have any big pieces missing. It had a bunch of tape on the cover. I mean, it's a 1.5, you get what you get. But still, this book went for a steal, and it went for a steal because it is a CBCS book. I keep saying it, I think it is crazy that you get these big keys or golden age keys, that kind of stuff, going for cheaper because they're in a CBCS case. Keep your eyes out for them. Those are the ones, when you see them, you lock onto them and hope you can find that deal where you get it for enough of a discount where it's worth the potentially the regrading, all that kind of stuff. Now, for alternatives, I already talked about the alternatives for this one. I'm not going to go into that again, but man, still just kicking myself about missing out on this big Silver Age key. All right, now number 5. This is a high sale. I thought this was a really unique item that came up for sale. Almost impossible for me to price, but still, I thought it went high for what I thought it would do. This was Avengers 1 through 11 in a bound volume. So this sold for $4,320. Like I said, I think these bound volumes are pretty cool items, pretty cool historical items from comic history, because people really don't do that anymore because it costs so much. The books, you're basically destroying them to put them into these bound volumes. Now, back when these were typically done, books didn't have nearly as much value, wasn't as big of a deal, but now if you were doing that, you're just wrecking the value of these books. But because it's a hard item to price, what I looked at it as is, if somebody was going to break this apart, what would it be worth? And really the majority of the value is going to be in issues 1 and 4, because generally, and I'm assuming that's what was done with this, it looked like it from the pictures I saw, with a bound volume, they trim the edges. So you've already got something that's going to be trimmed. Then you've got potentially glue and something maybe trimmed along the spine to get it to all fit together. And so these books are going to get purple labels. They're going to get low grades, even if you break them apart from that book. So really, outside of issues 1 and 4, you're not going to have a lot of value. There's not a lot of demand for low grade restored copies of the other issues. So I had estimated the price at $2,700 based on that. This was 60% above that estimate. Felt like this was a strong sale. Now, obviously, there is not an alternative for this. Hopefully the buyer doesn't decide to try to break it apart and sell it as the individual parts, because I think this is a cool item all assembled together. All right, now number 4, this is a low sale. This is another one that I'm pretty sure I threw a bid on. I did not end up with this book. This is Incredible Hulk number 1. It was a CGC 6.0, but it was a restored B2. This went for just $11,400. Now, if this was a Universal 6.0, 6.0s are going for, I think, somewhere around $40,000 to $50,000. I mean, if you had just a straight 6.0 Universal label. Now, a lot of people like to say restoreds go for half the value, but that's not necessarily true. The higher you get in the grade of the book, the smaller of a percentage that a restored copy will sell for, because the way that I often like to look at it is, if I was able to remove the restoration, what grade would I get? And so luckily with this one, with this B2, none of the restoration that was done couldn't be undone. So there are certain types of restoration that once it's done, you're never getting back to a blue label again. This one, the B2 was small amount of color touch, pieces added, tear seals, and cover reinforced. All of those things could be removed if you wanted to get it back to a blue label. And so I had estimated the price of this book at $20,000. This sale was 43% below that estimate, because I was thinking this book, after everything was removed, might be able to retain something like a 3.0. I was trying to, the restoration, it was a B2, which isn't professional, it isn't amateur, it's in the middle, and it was well done. You can see where the color touch was done, where you had some creases that were filled in, but wasn't real obvious where the pieces were added. It looked like it was probably some marble chipping and that kind of stuff along the right edge, but you can still get some pretty respectable grades with that type of damage removed. So I was thinking it could probably retain at least a 3.0, and a 3.0 universal I put at around $20,000 to $24,000. Might cost you somewhere between $500 and $1,000 to get the restoration removed. Then you have to get it regraded, all of that. And so I think whoever got this book just got a steal, and I would not be surprised if their plan is to have the restoration removed. Now, it is a beautiful looking copy in its restored state, so I could see someone just leaving it as it is, but again, would not be surprised if they tried to get it to a blue label. Now, for alternatives, there aren't really any alternatives that are real affordable nearby. If you're looking at issue 2, the first Green Hulk is also really expensive. It just keeps getting more and more expensive. But I think a pretty good option if you want another issue number 1 is Hulk Annual number 1. It's a great cover, great Steranko cover. You can get a mid-grade copy for around $300 to $350. So that's one that if you can't get Hulk number 1, I would at least try to get Hulk Annual number 1, because I think it is a great alternative. Get that number 1 issue, and it's just a really cool cover. All right, now number 3, this is a high sale. This is Batman number 2 with a CGC 1.8 that was signed by Jerry Robinson for $8,400. Big record for this book. Huge sale regardless of the signature or not. Early Batman books, early Batman keys just keep hitting bigger and bigger numbers. Now, this is not one of my favorite covers for early Batman. It's got kind of like a jokey type cover with Robin tripping the person. I don't know, it's just the ones that don't really appeal to me all that much, but it is still the second appearance of the Joker, the second appearance of Catwoman, two of the biggest Batman villains of all time, biggest Batman characters of all time. So these books, they just keep going up. Now, I had estimated the price of this book at $5,000. This was 68% above my estimate. Prior record for a Jerry Robinson signed 1.8, which I'm assuming is the same book, from 2012 was $2,450. So that is an increase of 240% in 10 years, which is not a bad return at all. Now, for alternatives for this book, you're not really going to get great Golden Age alternatives. It's always tough when you're talking about that, especially with the keys. But because this is a second appearance of Joker, second appearance of Catwoman, what I would recommend is just check out those early Detective Comics, Batman covers. Look for some cool Joker or Batman covers. Because really, when you're talking about the Golden Age, the first appearances become so expensive that the key covers, the cool covers, are what really end up driving a lot of people towards those books. So I would be looking for cool covers for Catwoman, cool covers for Joker, and start targeting those. They aren't cheap, but they're generally a lot more affordable than $8,400 for a 1.8. All right, now number 2. This was the most surprising low sale that I saw in this week's Heritage auction. This was Werewolf by Night number 33 with a CGC 9.6 that sold for just $750. This is the second appearance of Moon Knight. This is another character that is just on a downward spiral right now. This sale was so low, I actually screenshotted it and sent it to a group chat that I was in right when it happened, because I was just like, wow, $750 for a 9.6. Just a crazy low sale. Now, we'll see what happens with Moon Knight in the long term. It doesn't seem like they're done with this character, but this character is really cold right now, and that's when you really want to be watching. I think whoever got this book probably got a pretty good deal on it. I mean, these are prices that this book was at like 5 to 6 years ago, well before anything. I mean, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about overcorrected books. This book overcorrected, and I think somebody got a big deal on it. Now, I had estimated the price at $1,450. This was 48% below that estimate. The record from August of last year for a 9.6 was $2,686. That is a drop of 72%. That even beats the Amazing Spider-Man 316. So those two books, their drops from their peak sales were right about the same. I think 71, and then this one 72%. So just way down for this one. Now, like I said, I think that this one was a good buy. I think it was an overcorrection. But if I was going to be talking about alternatives, I would actually, in a strange twist here, I would go for Werewolf by Night number 32. I'd go for the bigger book. Because when you're seeing these types of corrections in the market, when I feel like it's overcorrecting for these characters, I want to go for the bigger key. And so for me right now, I'd be looking at Werewolf by Night 32, first appearance of Moon Knight. It's one to watch as it gets down to those 2019, 2020 prices. I do think it still maybe has a little more room to slide, but I feel like these ones are really getting pretty attractive with their prices right now. All right, now number one, the most surprising high sale. This was Fantastic Four number 33 with the CGC 9.4 that sold for a record $5,280. We just had the latest Black Panther trailer drop, so I think that this type of book is going to be hot for the short term, but I would be cautious with this. This is the first appearance of Atuma, one of the villains that's tied to Namor or Submariner, and I feel like this is the type of book that is just going to probably tank after this movie. That is my feeling. It generally is what happens with villains that are likely one-shot villains. Hey, maybe this character will stick around longer, but I don't know. That just has not been the history with Marvel and villains that are in these movies. But regardless, this was a huge sale for this book. I had estimated the price at $2,000. This was 164% over that estimate. Most grades right now have been coming back down to their 2021 averages or below. And so this was a higher grade copy, so I thought maybe it would beat that by a little bit. It had sold, its 2021 average was $1,773, so I'd estimated it at $2,000, and obviously this beat that by a ton. The prior record from March of 2021 was $1,795, so it beat that record by 194%, almost 200%. Huge sale for this book. And like I said, I would be cautious with Fantastic Four number 33 right now. I would not be betting on this. I would be waiting until that movie comes out. And if you want that book, I would buy it after. I mean, maybe it goes up after that, but I mean, with what we've seen forever for any of these books, even when it's the heroes, the books tend to drop after the movies. So I'd be cautious with that. Now, for an alternative, I don't really have an alternative for Atuma, but for Black Panther in general, I'd really be looking at Fantastic Four number 52, first appearance of Black Panther. I mean, that is a book that has been consistently going down. He is a very popular character. It's a big book. It is a tough book, especially in higher grades. And you can get 5.5s for under $1,000 now. It has been a long time since you've been able to do that. It's been a couple years since you've been able to get a 5.5 for under $1,000. So I would definitely be watching Fantastic Four number 52, first appearance of Black Panther. I think they will possibly recast that character in some way in the future, but regardless, he's still the name of the character. Even if they end up using someone else other than T'Challa as Black Panther, it's still Black Panther. It's still the first appearance of that character. And so I think this is a book that I would definitely be watching as the prices come down. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video, saw some cool books, got some ideas maybe for some books that you might want to be watching right now in this current market. Remember, I'm going to be giving away these 5 books with this video, so make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment with #monsters, and you will have a chance to win these 5 monster-related books. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.